Scorpio, this is your January 2024 soul story. Welcome back to the channel. It's Romy here. If you've got a sun rising or moon in the sign, then this reading may resonate for you. Appreciate you tuning in. We're opening up this month with the energy of the Three of Wands. Now, January is not what you say, it's how you say it. Context is everything, and when we're aware of the tone and how we express certain thoughts that we have or information that needs to be shared, it can completely transform the experience, both for you and for those that you are connecting to. And as we make our way through Capricorn energy, Mercury stationing direct on the 2nd, which definitely helps alleviate any challenges or misunderstandings that might have taken place, over the holiday season. We also are going to welcome Mars stationing direct in Capricorn on the 4th. Now, we're going to be asking a lot of questions here in a very directed way and quite a realistic, grounded way as well. So those questions are going to pertain to what are we doing and why are we doing it? And because you have this third house activated, your confidence at being able to kind of step up and assert and even to a certain degree sort of take the lead in how something perhaps needs to change or evolve, or the adjustments that are going to have to happen, really creates like powerful conversations, because the third house is always going to be challenging the way that we think, and it's always going to be putting an emphasis around the language that we use. I think you're asking more of yourself this month, but you're also asking more of others. And what comes along with that is a desire to want to use your time differently as well. So as you start out this year with a new tempo, it's going to take a little bit of consideration as to sort of how that's feeling for you and what that vibe kind of means to you, and frankly how you want to respond to it. Now, the Three of Wands tells me that you are able and willing to kind of look beyond certain circumstances toward the bigger picture. You're also very aware of what you've already invested and put in to get to this point. And as we approach that new moon in Capricorn that's going to come in on the 11th at 20 degrees, there is this desire from a kind of intention setting, however you approach January, if you're an avid kind of follower of sort of setting those New Year goals, or if you just prefer to just take the time to hibernate a little longer and feel your way into the new year. That new moon is a really powerful kind of reset point for you. The Lovers tells me it also might bring something back together, perhaps if it's felt a little bit fractured, or there's been some challenges that have gone on. There's a moment to be able to put something aside and be able to connect and be able to discuss and communicate in a way, again, that is very much down to how you say it. It's less about the specific words, and it's just, if we think about how much of communication is like non-verbal, it almost feels like it's more important how your non-verbal communication is speaking. Now, that new moon in Capricorn also has some conversations happening with Neptune and Uranus, meaning that we've got this deeper desire for some freedom in what we're setting as an intention and what we're directing our energy towards. We're also very aware from a spiritual perspective of the desire to want to be less bound and constrained by the limitations of ... fill in the blanks, whatever it is for you that's kind of being activated around that time. Of course, whenever Uranus is in the game, there's always set to be some twists and turns and some surprises that might develop. What is said, the action that someone takes could kind of knock you off guard a little bit, might take the wind out your sails, but more likely it feels like something that could be quite welcomed. When we're looking at Capricorn energy, we're really talking about commitment. And this is further emphasised right around that new moon as Juno stations retrograde in Virgo. So it's been in the sign since October. And this retrograde season lasts through till 21st of April. Now, Juno rules commitment, agreements, partnerships, marriages, relationships. And so, what happens through these retrograde cycles is, we become a little bit focused upon aspects of those agreements and commitments that are less than desirable, that we're not happy about, that need to change, that need to evolve, that have to grow. And so, in Virgo, we can get a little picky and a little overly critical and, sort of be very aware of where something is not living up to expectation. But also just how perhaps we've outgrown something. The Five of Swords says, there's definitely a kind of conflicted energy that, yes, could bring about a little bit of disappointment in terms of what you're seeing. And it's almost like the follow through. So we might have some, big, bold intentions and, the initial action. And then you're kind of like, but what really does that mean? And what really does that kind of represent to me? Now, Juno in retrograde is not about kind of breaking things up. She's more about helping you to review, to improve. And, for some, that might mean that there has to be a kind of break clause, or there needs to be an opportunity to extricate from a commitment. And remember, this is like professional, personal, romantic. It's going to be across the board. So anything that you have that is up for renewal or up for debate or discussion, you're going to be looking at it with a critical eye around that time in January. And, we've got to be aware of perhaps sometimes, again, when we position things in a certain way, sometimes it can feel like there's not particularly a situation that's going to be happy for everybody. And, that's when things become a little bit more complex and we're looking at entangled situationships that, are being discussed. And so, again, the resolution might not kind of land or be immediately clear to you or other parties. It might take the next few weeks. And remember, the real resolution will come as it stations direct again toward the end of April. Okay? But this is a heads up that you will be reviewing and looking at things. This also sort of leads into the fact that I think, you're going to be making some short-term plans for the next few weeks that are inherently helping you to prepare for something much bigger. And, that preparation is key. Around that new moon, 6 months from now, we're actually going to witness 2 full moons in Capricorn in 2024. So there's like an extra kind of potency, if you like, to the culmination and the revelations that will ensue mid-year. And the Four of Wands just tells me it's about the stability and the foundation, your sense of security that's kind of being addressed, if you like. And the way you speak to yourself, about yourself, the way you talk about your plans, your visions, the way you communicate with others about your willingness and your readiness to kind of invest, to devote, to commit, to do what it takes. It's almost like, everybody's listening, including spirit. So we want to get on the right side of that and really have it support and reflect, who we've become. And remember, this is a numerology 8 year, which means that it's about the development of our personal power. And we have an opportunity to really achieve and to really gain and find reward as we are realistic and specific about the intentions and the way in which we want to approach something. And then we get to prosper through that determination and that awareness. And the reason that it happens in that way is because what we also do is we merge that with the heightened spiritual awareness and the advanced growth that we have and the inner voice that's now stronger than it's ever been. So you have this beautiful balancing between physical earthly experience and bringing about tangible results, plus the higher frequency that you're now aligning with. And, this is a combination is so powerful, and it's needed because as we look out there into the collective, there's going to be all sorts of distractions that can currently run alongside everything that you do that will constantly be trying to knock you off balance and disempower you in one way or another. And, when you can call it out and see it for what it is, then you're going to be much more able to liberate yourself from it, yeah? And also choose your own narrative. And this is going to be really important. So it's kind of a month of hibernation and hustle, and depending on where you are, how you're feeling, what's unfolding for you, you know, in any given moment, you need to sort of tap into the need for one or other. Your Queen of Wands I like, although I do feel like she's quite riled up and she's quite animated. So there is something that's kind of got you a little bit hot under the collar through the course of January. Maybe just because you really believe in it and you're trying to kind of activate that sense of agency to be able to make a difference. Again, you're very expressive in third house. There's a magnetism that comes along with working with this energy. And there's also creative solutions that you see are possible, but I feel like you're somehow not thwarted, but you're kind of limited in being able to like fully execute on something. And I see you being a bit vocal, shall we say, about that, and you know, really trying to kind of assert yourself, which I think you will. I think you will be heard, but this goes back to kind of being mindful about what you say and how you say it. Okay, so we move towards the sun coming into Aquarius on the 20th. We've got this big shift, of course, with Pluto coming into the sign. We had that prelude in 23. It will be here till September, dipping back into Capricorn, fully in the sign from November, you know, for the foreseeable, which means that, you know, the themes that come up for you, pay attention. You know, this is not a race. This is something that you're going to be deliberately, consistently shown and directed and guided towards addressing within yourself. You'll also see it playing out powerfully in the collective shift of energy as well. So there'll be a marked change in the mood of the vibe that kind of is out there. And, you know, you'll be able to read the room with that and sort of address where necessary, you know, perhaps what needs to shift or change. Now, the thing that's interesting is that, you know, 24 is about also teaching that there's no longer this consistency necessarily in timelines. You know, we expect a certain run rate, or, you know, things happen in the same way, like religiously every month. And, you know, it's much more teaching us now that, you know, from an energy perspective, that's not always helpful to us, and it's not always realistic. And so, you know, we've experienced a little bit of it through 23, where you've had these high peaks and then deep troughs. And, you know, it's a bit more about recognizing that everything sort of balances out when you get to the end of the year. So whether you're looking at that from a financial perspective, or workload, or the rhythm of a relationship, it's kind of like, expect that it's not the same type of consistency that you've been used to, because everything is kind of being broken up and, you know, working in different ways, and the energy's changing and you're changing. And I like the King of Cups coming in for you, because I think it helps you read the room. It helps you bring that level of sensitivity that you need to kind of understand what's happening, and to not go into like a free fall when you start to see these patterns emerge. Okay, now of course, as we, you know, move into Aquarius energy, we're lighting up your fourth house, which, you know, brings everything very close to home. And, you know, it asks of you to kind of inner parent where you need to. And, you know, I think you're going to be particularly aware of some unresolved issues that require your special kind of a soul tending towards, so that you don't let that seep out into some of the conversations and the ways in which you're perceiving how something can work or how it can come together. Okay, there's also sort of inner reflective energy that happens when we're working through fourth house, which can be really helpful to kind of prepare us on an emotional level. And that's what I see happening. I see your King of Cups preparing you emotionally, perhaps for a shift or a change or an experience, or to be ready to face something. But nonetheless, it sort of puts you in a position of really appreciating how far you've come and what you've learned. And then as things start to unfold, and you kind of see it coming on the horizon, because it'll be like, okay, I'm going to have to deal with this. And it's sort of just like a readiness to sort of not perhaps allow some of the heightened emotion that the Queen of Wands had activated for you, you know, really put you in a weaker position, because then you sort of lose your cool. So he comes in quite temperate and soothing, I think, to get you back to a place where you can emotionally regulate yourself when you need to through this month. And that's going to be super important as we make our way toward the full moon in Leo, which is going to happen on the 25th at 5 degrees, with an opposition, or a square rather, with Jupiter. You know, we've got this kind of tension playing out. Everything is dramatic, everything is amplified, everything is center stage under the spotlight. And we have this kind of say it loud, be proud moment, which can be super helpful for giving the performance, getting the attention, saying what's on your heart, and really sort of giving people, like, you know, making sure they're under no illusion, if you like, as to where you're coming from, what you're bringing to the table, what you've got, and, you know, so that can be helpful, absolutely. But we also have a lot of attention seeking, and we have a lot of exaggeration, and we have a lot of drama that can also kind of come through with all that heightened passion. And, you know, Jupiter being kind of tense in the conversation, sort of forcing and pushing people to get out their comfort zone. And then it's amplified by Uranus going direct on the 27th. So here we have to take like bold action that could be a little surprising, and really kind of even a bit shocking. So we have this kind of quite powerful climax, if you like, toward the end of the month. And for you, it could be something that is very close to home, connected into family, even through third house, connected into siblings, to your neighbours. You know, just something to do with, you know, one or other of your parents, or the relationship that you have to, you know, powerful masculine or feminine people that, you know, sort of hold that role in your life in some capacity. So, you know, a lot happening around then, but at the same time, I see this as quite a powerful, progressive, illuminating, and honestly quite empowering full moon, if I'm honest. So I think, you know, this is the time to sort of stand up and be counted and say what you need to say. Everyone's going to hear it. Okay, there's nothing about being a wallflower at this time of the month, and yet perhaps that's what's necessary. You know, we've had a more grounded kind of conversation with ourselves and others early on in the month, and then it sort of, you know, the energy rises and it takes us to a point where, you know, we don't have to sit in a place of panic. You know, we can use this to cultivate and nurture like powerful solutions from a place of peace. But we do need to be heard. And you will be absolutely, as I said, like leading the way in some of those conversations and some of those presentations, what needs to happen. You also may come into contact or renew contact with somebody who's represented a really divine source of guidance or counsel or wisdom for you, like a mentor, somebody from your past, or just, you know, that wise sage insight that you trust in implicitly to kind of help keep you clear in your thoughts and in your understanding of what's unfolding for you on a very personal level, but also how the impact and the sort of presence of you, you know, needs to be positioned in a certain way, and how you can help or hinder that. So you've got a lot of really good conversations, powerful conversations happening around that time as well, specifically with an individual that I feel represents, you know, that King of Cups kind of emotional and spiritual maturity to the situation, that comes in with a sensitivity and a compassion as well, which is going to be super important for you. For those of you in relationships with the lovers, and the passion and the energy and the romanticism even that also comes through, this could be quite a powerful time, quite an evocative experience for some of you in terms of how it touches you or how it reminds you of things, especially around that Leo full moon. And with Venus shifting into Capricorn, you could well be looking at some more significant commitments being discussed or made, or changes happening on that level. So if you're new to the channel, our last 3 cards we look at in the extended version of the reading. I talk for another 30 minutes or so. We look at a personal question and a relationship card, as well as going deeper into this month. You can find that link in the comment and description box. Just clarifying the main read to see the direction we'll be taking some of those messages for you. Another 3 of Wands coming in, beautiful. You can find all the decks listed below. Scorpio, Ace of Wands and the Star, lovely. Six of Pentacles. I think there's a lot of negotiation going on for you this month. I see you in a strong position actually, but you do need to ask for what you need, because otherwise people will assume that everything is okay or that you're happy with it. I'm not necessarily convinced that is the case, so make sure you are, where necessary, coming to the table and just have your clearly thought out this is what it's going to take. Don't just sort of turn up with a, well, I'm not happy, because then it kind of goes nowhere. So keep that in mind. We're just going to look at some oracle cards for you now as well. This is Life Soul Vision, which is my own deck, so please check it out if you haven't already. It's over on my website, along with my sacred title, Moon Musings. We have Mirrors of the Mind. We have Maverick of the Light, Dancer of the Shadows. We've got Spirit Bear, Ancestral Protection, Energy Conversation happening here. Labyrinth of Sweet Surrender, Honesty at the Edge of Quiet. Beautiful. Okay, let's pull a couple more. Scorpio for January. What do we have? Universe is just responding differently to you this month because you're different. Notice that. Attachment. Okay, finally, Crow Oracle. What do we have? Preparation. Love it. Okay, Scorpio, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Go easy into this new year. Take care of yourself and those you love. I hope you will join me on the extended. It helps me to keep showing up on the channel each month. And I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.